Early on in Anemone, the chamber room drama that welcomes the three-time Oscar winner back to the big screen after an 8-year absence, Day-Lewis unleashes a corker of a monologue that left audiences shaken and stirred during its world premiere at the New York Film Festival. And just like the actor's barn burner, "I drink your milkshake" riff from There Will Be Blood, this speech is food-related. Instead of dairy drinks, though, Anemone's revolves around two great tastes that go great together: a pint of Guinness and a serving of curry. Day-Lewis's character also has a specific reason for imbibing that particular meal. The actor plays Ray, a former British soldier who has spent the past 20 years living off the grid as an escape from the disturbing memories of his earlier life. When his brother, Jem Sean Bean, turns up on his doorstep, he recounts several of those memories, starting with an incident where he unleashed a unique form of revenge on a priest that abused him as a young boy. And here's the kicker. The Guinness and curry monologue is the creation of not just one, but two members of the Day-Lewis family. The actor co-wrote Anemone with his son, Ronan Day-Lewis, who makes his directorial debut with the drama. Asked whether that scene represents a conscious effort to top his dad's immortal milkshake moment, the younger Day-Lewis just laughs. "If it holds a candle to that, we would be lucky," the filmmaker says. "It was amazing watching my dad and Sean do their performances. We shot that scene during the first week, and it was a moment that felt very reassuring. It was like, okay, we have a movie here." Day-Lewis credits his dad with dreaming up Ray's Guinness and curry bit in the first place, remembering that the actor had a fully formed idea for the scene early in on the writing process. "We did a lot of improvisation over the course of writing the script, and I heard him muttering to himself that sounded like Ray talking and not him," he says. "He started telling it to me in real time, and I had the same experience that Jem has in the scene, like, where is this going? And then as the mundane details kind of pile up, you realize where you're headed and you laugh. But then you're kind of punished for laughing." Bean, thankfully, was given a preview of what to expect before filming the scene courtesy of on-set rehearsals. But the actor still had to be consciously aware of reacting as Jem when the cameras were rolling and not as Sean. "When I first heard it, I was laughing a lot," he says now. "But you can't just look like that, because Jem is a very religious man, and what Ray is saying is really sticking a dagger in his heart. It was a challenge, because I couldn't stop laughing. It's a really funny speech." Behind the camera, Day-Lewis had his father perform the monologue multiple times as he captured the speech from different angles with a single camera. While much of the scene plays out in a tight close-up, the filmmaker also did several takes with a wide master shot, which provides the coup de grace on the sequence. "I wanted to use the close-ups as a kind of torture chamber, this vice that's holding the characters in place in this claustrophobic situation," Day-Lewis says, citing the visual scheme of Ingmar Bergman's Autumn Sonata as a reference point. "I talked a lot with my editor, Nathan Nugent, about figuring out the rhythm and visual escalation of the scene, keeping the dislocated single shots until the end when we finally allowed the wide shot and see Ray towering over Jem. My dad and I discussed whether he would stay static the whole time, because we were concerned it would be too theatrical if Ray pantomimes his actions. But in the end, we decided that's what the scene needed, so I tried to allow him as much freedom as possible to move around. The feeling is that the camera is discovering the action and also trying to keep up with Ray. While Ray acts out his stomach-turning revenge, Jem sits completely still, a reflection of how Bean uses his physicality throughout the movie. Jem's character and personality is reflected in his minimum of movements, the actor notes. He also doesn't want to aggravate Ray any further and stir his mind into these kinds of episodes he has. "I was very mindful that Jem is a grounding influence who soaks up all of Ray's trauma, insecurities, and mayhem." Of course, the dark joke at the end of the darkly funny Guinness and curry monologue is that Ray might be making the whole thing up, his way of having a laugh at his estranged sibling. Regardless of whether things went down exactly as Day-Lewis describes them, though, Bean still sees and hears a lot of truth in that speech. On the surface, all the dialogue is very funny, but there's so much malice and resentment below that, he notes. Ray's a man who doesn't want to let anybody into his life, and Jem has to try and figure out a way in. "I have to be careful about what I say to him and gauge what he says to me without losing own sense of self-worth or my sanity."